All right, welcome to another edition of Hobby Quick Hits. We have a different show for you today. We don't typically have guests on Hobby Quick Hits. We usually reserve that for our larger show, Sports Card Nation, but we're changing that rule today. Although we have had guests on Hobby Quick Hits before, not unprecedented. But today's going to be one of those episodes where we have a guest. We have Jeremy from BST Sportscards, and he has launched a selling platform. I want to talk to him about that. We like to highlight, people in the hobby doing different things, and launching a selling platform in today's space when there's no shortage of them. It's not easy, and we're going to talk to Jeremy about where kind of all the ins and outs of that, the difficulties, and what prompted him to jump in that pool, so to speak. So, nice gentleman, and we're going to talk about the hobby, his new platform, and all that good stuff. But first, we're going to hear from our great sponsors, Mojo Breaks. Hey folks, wanted to tell you about the best place to get some of your sealed sports card wax products. Great selection and some of the lowest prices on the web. MojoBreakShop.com is that place. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they're your guys, and they ship around the world right to your door. The Mojo Break name is one of the most trusted in the hobby. From sports cards to Pokemon, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders. Who won first place at this year's Topps Rip Party? None other than Mojo Break. Their prices are already great, but here's a way to save even more money. Use the code QUICKHITS, that's QUICKHITS, for 10% off anything on MojoBreakShop.com. They also have a full-service card shop in Santa Clara, California. So if you're in the area, stop by. They're open 7 days a week, so check them out at MojoBreakShop.com. Happy to be joined with Jeremy from BST Sportscards on Hobby Quick Hits here, as we sometimes will do. We'll highlight a product or a store or a selling platform. And Jeremy's here today to talk about something he started. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, happy to be here. Glad to
All
talk
right.
about the hobby with you.
Yeah. So a little bit, how it's the age-old boring hobby podcast question,
Right.
but kind of how did you get in the hobby to begin with?
Sure. I have the same story, right, as a lot of people. I grew up collected as a kid during that the junk wax era. Loved the Chicago White Sox since I was a little kid, so it was mostly baseball focused. And then I got into, football and basketball, obviously 90s. Growing up from Chicago, I was a huge Bulls fan. So, everything was focused around the Bulls and the White Sox pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, life happened. I went to high school, priorities shifted. I ended up going to college at Indiana University, and then, came back. And then all of a sudden I saw something online where people were now, breaking cases of cards and stuff like that. And I found all my old cards one day, and I was like, hey, I'm going to give this a try and buy the White Sox. And it was like 2016 Topps 5-star or something. And I didn't get a single hit. And I was like, well, this is for the birds. And then I got addicted to it. And ever since then, I gotten back into it and just been doing what a lot of people do, just buying and selling and adding to my PC.
Never heard that story before.
No,
I'm just
brand
kidding.
new.
But you know what? It's common because it's common, and
Right.
we kind of go. We start as kids or younger adults, and college, high school, girls, all that good stuff, and then there was cards weren't. As Josh Luber reminded us, cards weren't as cool. Now they're cool again, he says. So,
right, exactly.
Even the chicks dig it, as they say. So, but you come back, we all have a nostalgic bone in our body. We
Right.
sort of, not everyone, but a good portion returns in some form or fashion.
Yep.
The crescendo of the hobby actually obviously helps to gain more attention, and you hear that story a lot, and it don't matter. I've always said on my show, whether you're like me and you kind of never left, or you come back, doesn't matter, right? There's no
Right.
pension plan. You didn't lose any tenure. The hobby's here for whoever wants
Yep.
to be active and be part of it. It's a fraternity, and I'm one of those old guys that welcomes new folks and returning folks, and
Yep.
sometimes that's not always the case, but that is what it is. But you know, uh, it's fun just the same. What's been the biggest surprise to you since coming back,
I
hobby wise?
think one of the bigger surprises was one, the prices. That was one of the biggest surprises. But
Yeah,
two, how much it exploded during COVID. And for some
yeah,
reason, I could never wrap my mind around that. Like, all right, you would think like, hey, there's a pandemic. Let's tighten up, right? But then people started getting that money, and like I was thankfully I work remote.
yeah,
My job just before COVID, so nothing really changed in my life, and I'm still getting paid. So it was one of those things where it's like I see how, I'm not spending money going out and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think that's been the biggest surprise to me is just that, and how card shows popped up everywhere again too.
yeah.
And I knew that was going to happen, and but it was great to see, but it surprises me like how often they happen even around me. Pretty much every weekend I can find a show if I want to within an hour
Yeah.
radius. So
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned shows, Jeremy. I've done shows since my first show I did as a dealer at 15 years old. I'm
yeah,
49. That'll tell you how many shows I've done, even as whether it be a dealer or as going just as a consumer.
right,
And shows back in those days, when I was younger, if someone traveled 50 miles to the show, that was a lot. Now
right,
people are flying in and
yeah,
driving to different states, and I'm not just talking like the big shows like the national. I'm talking even just regional shows
right,
and whatnot. People are traveling for these things like never before, and I think that just shows where the passion for the hobby is, and how it's grown exponentially. And sure, money's a factor. No, I'm not going to lie. To say otherwise would be disingenuous. But yeah, it's crazy, and we're seeing where it wasn't as cool as to be in the hobby. Now it's cool. You're seeing athletes, celebrities post on their social media stuff they're buying
right,
or acquiring, and it's drawn a lot of attention. We see these obviously high dollar, $1 million auction sales, and it's making mainstream news, CNBC, NBC, financial networks, and it's
yep,
become an asset class, and it's in its own right. I'm not saying you have to do it for those reasons, but it's definitely drawn some attention to the hobby. Some people don't like it. They don't like to think of cards along those lines. But you can't argue with history. History presents itself. Those are just facts of the matter. It's not a debate. It's happened,
exactly,
and it is what it is. I don't do it necessarily. I set up at shows to make some money, which in sense fuels my own collecting habits. So
right,
it's not. I don't make. I have a regular job,
yep,
but I did have a card store back in the '90s for 7 years, where it was pretty much my sole source of income. It's not at this point now, but some people don't like the money aspect, but to say it's not a factor is not telling the truth. So,
right,
and here we are, and it's fun. I mean, I'm old where I remember, you could go weeks and months without a news story breaking the hobby. With
yep,
content, years ago you'd have to like, what do I talk about? Nothing's really changed in 3 months, and now it's every
exactly,
day something else. A news story breaks, whether it be a merger, an acquisition, a license gained or lost,
yep,
a record sale, a find. The grading came into the space. and became a huge factor. And so there's something for everyone. That's the beauty too of the hobby, Jeremy, is no matter what you want to do, whether you collect a team, a player, you like graded, you like just raw cards, you can hobby any which way you so choose. And that's the beauty of what
Yep.
we get to do. And, tell me a little bit about BST, what it is, how it started, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So pretty much like everyone, I bought and sold on eBay.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. And as the hobby got more popular past couple of years and everything like that, I started to get burnt a little bit more and more on eBay, as in people not paying or shipping me the wrong card. And then
What about their low fees?
yeah, exactly. The fees, the very low fees that haven't gone up at all
And some of
recently.
those fees, I know I keep cutting you up, but
No,
some of those fees, I'm like, was that their card or my card? Like, what am I
yeah,
getting? But
exactly.
but
Yeah.
but go ahead.
But so, I was like, man, okay, has anyone sort of built one? I, like you said, I just hated the fee portion of it. So I was like, well, is there any other platform that's sort of done a different structure to where they've sort of taken those fees out and they've done it based, like a subscription? I found a couple out there, but they didn't stick around. So I said, you know what? I'm in the IT space, so I'm gonna see what it's gonna take to build my own auction marketplace. And I just started doing it in my free time, and then it took me about a year, and I had to get a couple freelancers in just to help me on some back end stuff. But I built a marketplace that is purely subscription based, and that's the only thing you pay. So we have it into 4 tiers where you can sign up for like a month, a 3 month, 6 month, or a year subscription. And it's $7.99 for a month. It's $19.99 for 3 months, $37.99 for 6 months, or $69.99 for a year. And that, I feel like that was a good compromise to, hey, if you're selling, the casual person's not really selling a ton of cards. I mean, people sell over $700 worth of cards in a month, right? All the time now,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I was like, well, if I could, do this and I can sell, have them sell, they pay $69.99 for a year and they can sell as much as they want for the year. And I never take a fee off that. They just pay that subscription, right? So I thought, hey, this would be, and then I could take the shortcomings that I saw in other marketplaces and try to fix them. So I started going through of things I sort of didn't like. And it's like, okay, I want buyer and seller feedback. I didn't like how they did that where, there was only feedback on one side. And I didn't
Yep.
think it was fair. I wanted to make a place where buyers and sellers felt safe to make transactions and make connections and everything like that, because that's what I got when I would go to card shows. That's what I got. So I was like, how can I do this and make it just a safe haven for both buyers and sellers? And that's what I'm ultimately trying to do and stuff like that. Obviously, I have to try to make money as well to pay for the storage
Hmm.
and everything like that and time, but it's not my sole income. I
Hmm.
have a job that I use to fund my hobby card addiction already. So I wanted to do that. A couple other things, I wanted to make sure that I sort of took out the plain white envelope transactions. I wanted to make sure everything had to have tracking, and I just did that again to make sure it was safe for the buyer and the seller. And plain white envelope, you can send something and the buyer can say I never got it, right? And then
Yeah.
there's no proof, right? So I wanted to go that way. And then I wanted to make it very strict for people uh, that don't pay on time. So I have a one strike policy where if you're a non-payer, you are banned from the platform. However, you can appeal, and if there's extraordinary circumstances that that we find will allow you back on. But I wanted to make it a place where what I saw happening, right, is you see these, like I follow like Cardboard on Twitter, right? his
Yeah.
account, and he always posts like eBay horror stories of people just right not paying, and they just don't care
Yeah.
because no one knows what eBay's policy is in there. They say they get a non-payment strike, but how many strikes? What happens to them? What you never know.
Yeah.
They don't define that, right? So I wanted to define these things, and that's the biggest thing is I just want to be transparent through all of it. So that's why I have these rules in place. I have a 5-day return window because the market fluctuates so much. And I didn't want to have a no return policy because I do have there's raw cards, and there could be circumstances where a return is warranted, right? Like
Yeah.
a damaged card or something like that, and it goes through that same process. But I just wanted to make it a safe haven that is transparent and people just feel safe making transactions again, doing what they love to do, funding their PCs and stuff like that. So, because that's ultimately what I'm doing. So that's
Yeah.
all I'm doing.
I don't want to make this the bash eBay half
No,
hour, but
right,
I always compare the eBay to the NCAA, right? Yeah,
right.
they have rules, but they change. They kind of they write them as they go. Sometimes the same infraction has
Hmm.
different punishments. There's not a uniform policy. I'm embellishing it a little bit for effect, but it's I'm not far off. And
Right.
it can be, like you said, it can be very confusing.
Hmm.
Some navigating through that and like, hey, what is the rule? What happens when this happens?
Right.
And so structure obviously is always very important. Now, listen, let's be real here, Jeremy. There's no shortage of selling platforms. I don't have to
Right.
mention them by name. I'm not going to give anyone else here. I'm talking to you. Any free advertising. Talk about the difficulties of going, and these are folks with investment,
Right.
seeding money
Yep.
and backers and that sort of thing. Talk about the difficulties of being in that space.
Oh yeah, it's been an incredible challenge, and not only a challenge on building it out and making sure that we have pieces in place to one be compliant, right? PCI compliant, bank compliant, stuff like that, but also just from the aspect of getting users, right? Like
Yeah,
marketing and that costs real money, which I don't have seating, I don't have investors and stuff like that. This is a
yeah,
solo build, right? So I have to rely on social media. I have to rely on and it's not only just, I didn't want to just market on social media and stuff like that. I want to be active in
hmm,
those communities, right? I want to give advice. I want to take advice. I want, and things like that. And that's another thing. I'm open to feedback at all times, and that's how I want to be. I don't want to be someone that's stuck in their ways and is like, hey, it's always going to be this way,
yeah,
and it's never going to change. I want to take that feedback and go with it, but sometimes it's hard, right? eBay is a massive platform, and it's part of the reason why the card industry is doing so, it did so well and is still doing well, right? They were a
yeah,
big part of that. And other platforms, they have their niche too. And I'm never going to say my platform is for everyone, because it's not. There's going
yeah,
to be people that like other things, but I wanted to give an alternative platform, and I wanted to put it out there, and I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do it. And I did it, and I'm proud of that fact by itself. And now it's switched into, hey, I'm not was never into marketing, but now I got to market this and get it out and stuff like
yeah,
that. And that's been the challenging part is how do I show value add to other people, especially higher ups. You have stock at people that are getting celebrity endorsements and getting and they've gotten larger and built up probably way quicker than I ever will. But it's just been a challenge, right, to sort of get those people to understand what I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to be a positive impact in the hobby. And I think that's just the user retention has been the hardest piece of it, because like you said, these other companies are huge and they can easily get people by just one little tweak or one little thing. They have a huge following and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off something you said because
hmm
I think it's important. You said, "Hey, uh, I can change with hobby is ever changing." I think
right,
to
right,
say, "Hey, this is how it's always going to be," is sort of short sighted.
right.
I think we've seen literally every month the hobby sort of changes in some form or fashion. We've seen
Yep,
NFTs. While I'm not a fan personally,
right,
they're huge in the hobby. To say just because I don't like them, Jeremy, I can't lie about them and say, man, it's not a big deal. They are a big deal, not
right,
to me, but to enough other people, which is why they're a big deal. And so to hear you say, hey, we can evolve along with the hobby. You hear a lot of people don't say that, and they
right.
sort of can get left behind or fall behind,
Yep.
and that's always good. The argument you're going to get, you probably know I'm going to ask you this. I got to is someone will say, well, listen, there's plenty of free platforms
Right.
that I can sell and buy stuff. I mean, what's your response to someone that says, "Hey, I can do this for free"? Now, in your defense, I'm going to let you answer the question. I'm sort
hmm
of partly answering the question for you. Obviously, even with some of those free ones, there's going to be maybe a buyer's commission, a seller's commission. So, in a
Right.
sense, they're not truly free, so to speak. Air
Right.
quotes there, but to someone that says to you, "Hey, Jeremy, that's cool. Not to knock your work. I'm sure you worked hard on it, but I don't really want to pay a subscription free. I can list or buy and list on this for free without any kind of upfront cost." How do you respond to those folks?
Yeah. So again, I would say, if you're happy with where you're selling for free, that's great. You don't. My platform's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
But I like to. Here's the great thing about my platform and and how I thought about it too. If you sign up for a subscription to sell, and then you meet somebody, you have a card up there, and you meet someone that's not on my platform, and they say, "Hey, I like that card. Can I buy that card?" You could take it off my platform and sell it to them however you want. You've paid your subscription fee to sell. That's perfectly fine to me. eBay and stuff like that is, hey, do not sell off our platform, right? Or you're in trouble
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, I'm also, I'm sort of offering that protection as well, where, if something were to happen and stuff like that, we'll do what we need to do, whether it's kick that user off or something, or the seller, if they break any sort of terms and stuff like that. But, we have certain features that we add for people that have subscriptions. We have a what we call a comp page. So everything that is sold is displayed in this comp page for free for everyone. It shows the exact price it was sold for and stuff
Hmm.
like that within our platform. You don't need to, right? I mean, I know other platforms sort of do that. I built in like a return on investment tool where you can track cards over, months and periods and stuff like that. And, I'm going to, you know, have different systems that I'm going to put in place that I hope are unique enough to bring people over and things like that that are sort of outside those free avenues. But I I think it's more than just sometimes you get what you pay for, right? If it's free, you run into some certain problems. I'm trying to solve those problems with a subscription base and not take the fee away from you at the end when you're trying to sell $1,000 card, and then eBay's going to take 120 bucks from it, right? And I'll take 8 if you've already paid for a month, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that
Mhm.
for sure. Any sort of vetting process or
Yeah, we do have a for the sellers, we have a seller onboarding process that they have to go through, and it's through Stripe and stuff like that. So they go through an onboarding process, and once they're on, then be they can determine how they want to get paid out too. You can get paid out through Stripe process, which is through your bank, right? And
yeah,
that actually has a lower fee. So I think Stripe's like 2.9% plus 30 cents, right? So payout, we can't take away those fees. The
Yeah,
only
that's
fees we could
outside
take, that's outside
that's
my
outside your scope.
ability, right?
Yeah.
I even
Because
actually
if you could do that, we're going to talk after we're off,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
not like.
Right, right. If I had that connections, I would have the funding that I don't have now. So, but so Stripes that, and then you could also get instant paid out via PayPal, which goes through goods and services. But PayPal now is 3.49% plus like 49 cents per transaction, right? So you have that option, to go through either or, but that's sort of the vetting process that we go through. And then obviously we have things sort of on my back end, on my administrative dashboard and stuff like that. I can see sort of what's going on. Obviously nothing I can't see big, right? That's all PCI compliant and goes through Stripe and goes through PayPal. I can't see any of that, obviously. But I can see, users where they're created. If we block people, there's certain ways we can block them so they can't create just a new account every time and stuff like that. So,
well, I appreciate you trying to stay ahead of the curve, and
yeah,
it's listen. Let's be real, like with the hobby, right? It's a little chess game too here with some of the bad actors, as they say, or just the bad folks in general, right? And so we need to kind of do our due diligence to try to stay one step ahead. Not always easy. Never going to be foolproof or 100%. I don't care who you are.
Yep, exactly.
So. But the more you can do to be as close to that as you can, that's important. I mean, I don't know if you've kind of set goals. I mean, what is where do you want to be? I mean, do you want to build it up where maybe you're open for an investment funds or that sort of thing, someday?
Yeah, I think so. One day, that's where I want to. The goal is to make this a viable platform where it's a reasonable option for hobby enthusiasts, right? And not just, right now I have it to where there's only certain, right, sports cards, and then I have a non-sports card section of it too. So, I have all the major sports in there plus F1, NASCAR and stuff like that. But, sort of get into other branches in the same. Right now we have, non-hobby, we do Pokemon, Fortnite, and Garbage Pail Kids and stuff like that. But to expand to other hobbies, we have memorabilia as well on the platform. That when you sell memorabilia, though, you have to have a certificate of authenticity from certain houses and stuff like that. But
I was going there. If you answered the question before
I wasn't even gonna try. That's like some of the things you're like, no way, I'm just gonna let people sell memorabilia. And I'm sort of on the same way with wax too. It's like, how do I, if I let people start selling wax and stuff, how do I make sure that right, it's so hard. How do I make sure that these haven't been tampered, haven't been weighed, haven't been resealed, right? So it's right now you can't sell wax on there because I just don't have right now. I want to keep it safe for buyers and sellers, and I don't have a way to vet those things out right now. So
and it's refreshing to hear you say, hey, I'd love to do it, but I can't do it safely for the consumer at this point. I'm not gonna do it just for the sake of doing it and have someone get burnt because as I can't prevent it. And so that's nice to hear. I think sometimes it's, hey, I just want to let's get this done, or let's make that in a commission based deal. I don't really care as long as I get my 2-3% or whatever it is. And it's nice to hear you say that you're looking at all those avenues and different things that can happen. I mean, I always say on my show, Jeremy, 97%, probably higher, are all above board, outstanding people in the hobby, but you still have that 1, 2, 3% when, and it's not just a hobby thing. I've always said that it's any industry, Wall Street, any industry where money can be made. There's going to be people who don't want to do it the right way, right? They want the whether it be a crook or just robbing someone or doing something illegal. they're going to do it. That's human nature,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yep.
And so you have to. The fact that you're thinking along those lines is, a good place to come from. And it's when someone doesn't, those when you hear those stories more often than not. So,
Yep.
I mean, how would you assess where you're at, or when did you launch?
So we launched about, I would say 6 months ago, we launched sort of a light version of it, right? I want
Yeah,
to see how it went. We just added PayPal payouts last month. So I would say last month's when we really sort of hit the ground, and now we're just open for business, right? And
yeah.
everything's sort of been ironed out and stuff like that. I wanted to make sure, payouts worked correctly, everything like that. So we got that all set. So it's been about a month that we've been running fully with PayPal payouts and Stripe payouts, determining which one you would like and stuff like that. So
So you're obviously in the early innings, as they say, real.
very early innings of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, but thus far, I mean, has it been? Would you say it's been more difficult than you thought? About what you expected? Where would
Way
you?
more difficult than I thought. Way more.
Yeah,
You'd think you're like, man, the hobby is so hot. Like everyone's just trying to sell and sell and sell. I was like, let me try to put this platform on, and people be like, oh, look, I can save some money, do that. But that's not, collectors sometimes they don't care about saving money. Like, they care about having quantity and having the things that they want and stuff like that. And that's another hard part is, right, you have to have the buyers for the sellers, but you have to
yeah,
have the sellers for the buyers too. So
yep.
it's a
Two-way street.
two-way street, and it's very it's that whole supply and demand thing. So getting to that point where um people that are looking for certain things can find them, and people that want to sell certain things can sell them. So
All right, so we're kind of coming down the home stretch here.
mhm,
I'm definitely going to give you a kind of last word at the end here to plug the site and where people
sure.
can see it. But the big news this year has been the Fanatics licensing announcement, with them
Right.
here in a couple years taking over baseball, basketball, and football. Upper Deck for now is going to retain the NHL. Kind of
Mhm.
your thoughts on that as someone in the hobby and someone who collects
Yeah.
themselves.
So I have a group of friends that I've known since I got back into the hobby that are breakers, right? And when
Yeah,
I heard the Fanatics news, I was like, man, how's this going to impact them, right? Because
yeah,
these are very good people, and I like them. I've hung out, we've met up at the National, and we hung out, went to dinner, and and stuff like that. So I was very worried and very nervous about, one, how it's going to impact them, distributors, them getting their stuff from their distributors, and local card shops and card shows, because that's the pulse of the hobby for me. Is you
yeah,
know I wish there used to be a man that when I was younger that I had a card store here, and sadly he passed away, and there hasn't been a card store here, and it's just I have to drive. Thankfully, Baseball Card Exchange is 45 minutes away from me, so
yeah.
that's pretty cool. But it as soon as I was fearful, but then I heard an interview that Josh Luber gave, and his thoughts around it. Right,
Hmm.
he he thought that it's not going to impact. Right, I mean, this is all me taking his word, right, for what he's
Yeah.
saying. I don't know
Be
what people.
careful. Be
Right,
careful
right.
there.
But it
Well,
made me
no, I
more
mean you
optimistic.
can. Yeah. No, and I hear what you're saying, and listen, I'm optimistic. I've said on my show, I'm a Brooklyn, New York kid, so
Hmm.
Tops has a sentimental place
And
in my
that's
heart. I'm a little stubborn, so it's a little shocking. Not now. I mean,
right.
this is old news now, but you know, I hope they do I hope they do well. To root against them, if you're in the hobby, sort of like rooting against yourself.
Right.
I don't know why anyone
Right.
would do that.
Yep.
I'd like to see the Tops legacy and those five letters live on in some form or fashion. Whether
Yeah.
that's Fanatics buying them, or buying intellectual property, or even
Right.
subleasing. Although I think that's not likely, but who
No.
knows, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah, I would love to have those logos still there, right? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Tops. I just think I'm like you, like it's been in the hobby for so long. And like you
Yeah,
said, I don't want to root against fanatics either, because I want them to make the hobby better and
yeah,
right
yep,
progress. It's like I always say, when your team is playing another team and you're blowing them out when they're a good team, and the student section starts yelling overrated. It's like, wait a second, why are we yelling overrated? We should be saying they are good as we thought they were, but we're still beating them. So
yeah.
it's
We're
like,
better. We're
yeah,
just better.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, you can't listen. I wish Tops didn't lose their license. Truth be told,
right.
I know they've made a lot of mistakes and they are culpable, and maybe why this happened. I'm not naive.
Hmm.
I'm stubborn because maybe where I'm from and that connection, and like you said too, 70 years of them doing it. It's just become synonymous with each other. So
Right.
I'm sort of selfishly hoping that it continues in some form. But fanatics, they're going to do what they're going to do. The fun's going to be watching the next couple years to see what that might turn out to be. But
Yep.
to root against them just because I'm mad that Tops lost the license is sort
Hmm.
of sacrilegious. Almost, it's almost like rooting against yourself.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I'm not going to do that. I just, like you just said, I hope they do right and do well and make some smart decisions. We've heard stuff from Michael Rubin, Jeff Fluber. You got to take it at face value. I mean,
Yeah.
but we've also learned someone can say one thing and something else happens
Absolutely.
too. And but they're a business too. They need to make some money, and
They
especially
spent a lot
for
of it, so they got to
yeah,
make some of that back.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They paid. Rumors is they paid 10 times the highest Tops has ever paid for the license. So,
Yep.
that's a significant number without knowing exactly how much it is, and they got to make sure they come out, ahead. Otherwise, it's a losing proposition. And
Yeah.
now with the players sort of having a seat at the table and their handout, some of that money, more money is even going to go their way. So it's going to be for the maybe someone in the hobby that does content creation, or even if it doesn't matter what you do, it's definitely going to be interesting to see
Yep.
what happens, what kind of products we get, what new innovations, what the designs look like. As much as I love Tops, Jeremy, one of my biggest complaints, we can get into whole customer service.
Hmm.
That'll make the show 2 hours long, so I'm not going to go there. But one of my complaints, besides that obvious one with Tops, is some of the designs. Right, I
Yeah.
think they got a little bit lazy. They kind of retreaded a lot of stuff. And I get
Hmm.
with certain brands you have to do that. Obviously Heritage is the old years brought
Right.
back with the current player. I get that. I'm not criticizing for that. That is what it is. But even some of their new designs are sort of uh, uninspiring, I
Yep.
guess is maybe
Yep.
the nice way to put it. So it'll be interesting to see what Fanatics does in that area, maybe what new technologies. They're very close with a lot of the players. They have exclusive contracts.
Right.
What kind of new, maybe, game use, event type stuff we
Hmm.
may get. Maybe less redemptions because they have a closer relationship
Could
with
be.
some of
Yep.
the players. So, someone asked me, I get asked, once or twice a week at least, if not more, John, hey, what do you think, is going to happen with the Fanatics deal? And my answer is kind of, sort of a cop out answer, but I also think it's true. I don't think it's going to be all good, and I don't think it's
Right.
going to be all bad. I don't think that's possible. They're not going to hit every single pitch out of
Nope.
the park,
Yep.
and everything they do is not going to be bad either. So those doomsday
Yep.
folks, like this is the end, Fanatics going to kill the game,
No, the
those
hobby's not
folks.
going anywhere.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it isn't. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So if you're
Yeah.
thinking, like, if you're the person that the minute Fanatics makes one mistake, you're gonna like jump on that and say, "See, this is the," you
Hmm.
know, you, that's not that to me. That's not the end. They're gonna drop the
Right.
ball here or there, but it's like a batting average, right? If
Right.
if your batting average is high and you're going to make outs every once in a while, but you win the batting crown, then you're a good hitter. I think that's how I'm looking at what Fanatics is going to do.
Yep.
If there's more pros than cons at the end of the day, then that's what I'll judge them on. And you got to give them a little time too. You can't come out with the first release or the first thing they
Yeah, exactly.
produce, and sure you're going to look at it, and that's going to set the tone for sure.
Hmm.
But you got to give them a little bit more than time than that. And I'm
Yep.
going to be fair. As much as I'm a Topps homer and sentimental, I'm still going to give the benefit of the doubt and try to be fair.
Yep.
It's gonna be fun to see where this thing goes.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a
crazy
it makes it
time.
interesting. They're making it interesting, that's for sure. And I'm in the same boat you. Like, as long as, like you said, they're not going to please everyone all the time. They're going to alienate some people that want it the old way and stuff. But like you said, as they're going to try to have a good average, and as long as they run it out, right? Don't
Yeah,
jog to first base. I think everything
it's a good way to put it. Yeah,
will will settle down a little. So, but who knows? If anyone says they know what's going to happen, even someone, they don't.
no,
Like, no
listen,
one,
I've done this. I've done this a long time, right?
right?
And you mentioned something earlier when we first started talking that rings true, and I'm guilty of it. And when the pandemic was headed this way, I was on Sports Card Nation and saying, listen, I hope I'm wrong, but I got a feeling cards are going to really take a back seat
Mm-hmm.
to necessities, paying your
Right.
mortgage, food,
Right.
toilet paper, water, things you need to
Yeah.
survive. And I was, and in my defense, a lot of folks said that. I'm thinking along the same line.
Yeah.
We see what happened, right?
Right.
We were wrong. It's good for the hobby. We were wrong. It's probably the best 2 years in hobby history. Record sales, new innovations, new things came along, and it was like the perfect storm. You had the
Right.
stimulus checks. You had more people working from home
Yep.
with more tabs. Let's be honest, you're working from home and you got 10 tabs open on your laptop, right?
Right.
eBay, other selling platforms, at the time. And, how much work got done in an hour, maybe 15 minutes and 45 minutes of leisure. Hey, let's look at some cards. It was
Exactly.
really the perfect storm. You mentioned, restaurants were closed, movie theaters, so money we were spending on those sort of things. Now we're putting in the hobby.
Yep.
Hobby's 24/7. It doesn't close. And so
Nope.
I was on Sports Car Nation, swung and missed on that prediction, and actually was glad I swung and missed. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't see that coming. And one thing I've learned in my long time in the hobby is you just never know what could happen. And
Yep.
I learn every year, and that's sort of what makes it fun. You're flying by the seat of your pants, and
Yep.
if it's the same movie and you watch it 10 times and it always ends the same, that can get boring too. So I like that it's sort of the way it is. It keeps things interesting and fresh, and for an old guy like me, it keeps me a little bit hobby younger. I
Right.
like to always say. So will be interesting to see, and then hopefully for you grow the platform and it gets bigger, and it gives people that alternative to some of the other things and some of the negatives that those places offer. With that being said, I want to thank you for coming on and
I
sharing some of
appreciate you
your
having me.
definitely tell people where they can find you,
Yeah.
BST, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find the marketplace. It's bstsportcards.com. And, if you ever have any questions, you can always email me at jeremy@bstsportcards.com. And, and if you have feedback, you check it and you see something and you have some feedback, I'm always open to that too. So my email is always open. I always love to hear what people think. So,
Man, I say that on my shows. Like, I need to hear good and bad, right?
yep,
You don't get better, and sometimes
exactly.
when you're involved with it directly, you don't see everything all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need those outside eyes or ears to tell you,
Right.
hey, think about this, or I was noticing that, and I'm open to it. It's nice to hear that you're the same way. That's how we
Yep.
get better.
I could think something's a genius on the platform, and someone could be like, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in
Yeah,
my life," and I'll be like, "All right, let me look at it again. You know what? This is pretty stupid."
yeah,
So,
yeah, and that's how you
but
get
that's
better.
life, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how
that's
you get better,
yep,
and so it's good. It's good you're like that. So, well, Jeremy, thanks for coming on, and we'll touch base again, and continued success, and stay safe and healthy. Maybe I'll see
yep,
you at the National as well here coming up in Atlantic City.
yep. Booked my. I'm in Caesars, so I'll be there.
Yeah. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks, John.
All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/sportscardnationpodcast/ Twitter, we are at sportscardnat1, so it's sportscard NATI1. Instagram at sportscardnationpodcast, or you can email the show hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.